The General's Declaration. The council hall of the High Zinthri throne was a monolithic structure of obsidian and fireglass, looming above the storm-racked clouds of Sivern Prime. Its interior pulsed with light and heat, a deliberate design meant to intimidate weaker species and used to such extremes. In the center, surrounded by representatives from 200 star systems, stood General Vorkas, first Fong of the Galactic Empire, terror of the Rim Wars, and the embodiment of Zinthri pride. He was 10 feet tall, his scaled frame wrapped in ceremonial bone armor, and his yellow eyes scanned the gathering with contempt. "We gave them the chance to prove themselves," he hissed, voice amplified through the chamber's psychic resonators. And what did the humans do? They whimpered behind planetary shields. They begged for trade treaties. They hid. A low murmur rolled through the delegates. Some, like the insectoid Kthari, clicked their mandibles in agreement. Others, the quieter scholars of the Delari fold, simply watched. Vorkas paced before the great throne, where the Empress herself listened with an impassive expression. "They boast of culture, of resilience," he snarled. "But I say this, humans are cowards. They flee from the front lines, fear cybernetic integration, and hide behind primitive moral codes. They are a mistake, an error in evolutionary indulgence. The Galactic Empire has no need of them." Silence followed. The Empress did not rebuke him. She simply raised a clawed hand toward Earthseed on the council floor. The human representative, Ambassador Julius Anand, a diplomat in a navy blue suit soaked in sweat, stood alone. The other Terran delegates had either resigned or gone silent after the last trade humiliation. Anand's voice cracked when he spoke. "General Vorkas, your words are harsh, but Earth has not waged war because we choose diplomacy. We seek coexistence, not conquest." And yet, Vorkas interrupted, "You have nothing to offer. No warriors, no ships, no courage." That was when the Empress spoke. Her voice, a low reverberation, felt more than heard. "Then let it be decided." The chamber tensed. "You will name your champion, human. The Zinthri will name theirs. You will meet on the battlefield. If your kind proves its worth, Earth may remain sovereign. If not, you will become a protectorate. Forever." Ambassador Anand's breath caught. "A trial combat." The Empress nodded. "The right of dominion." The decision was final. 3 days later, in a secure military council room under the ruins of Old Geneva, Earth's leaders convened. The mood was grim. Several generals, AI strategists, and security analysts debated over options, none of them good. Earth had few military assets that could stand against the genetically enhanced monstrosities bred by the Empire. Entire platoons had been vaporized in past skirmishes. And yet, the council had to choose someone. That was when a woman stepped forward from the shadows of the observation deck, armor plating humming softly with power. "I'll go," she said. The room turned. She stood no taller than 6 feet, her frame lean but deadly. Her eyes, one natural, the other a glowing cybernetic lens, scanned the room with practiced detachment. Captain Mira Reyes, one of the generals, muttered, "I thought you retired." "I did." She flexed her gauntlet hand. "Then I saw the broadcast." The council hesitated. Someone finally asked, "What makes you think you can survive?" "He'll send a monster." "I've seen monsters." She stepped closer, voice like steel. "I've killed them. You don't need an army. You need one weapon they've never seen. And you think that's you?" Myra's lips twitched in the closest thing she had to a smile. "No, I know it is." In the weeks leading up to the trial, news of the duel spread across the stars. Betting syndicates placed 1,000:1 odds on the Zinthri. Social media across the human colonies exploded with arguments. Some begged the council to back out. Others begged for blood. And still others, mostly veterans who knew the name Mira Reyes, remained silent. They remembered her from Mars, from the Scourge Wars, from the black sites no one spoke about. On Sivern Prime, General Vorkas reviewed the footage of Earth's chosen warrior with growing disbelief. "They sent a woman," he hissed. "Alone." His second in command, a war ape named Croc, bared his teeth. "They claim she's a super soldier. Enhanced. Modified." Vorkas narrowed his eyes. We've dismantled cyborgs before. Flesh is weak. No amount of circuitry will change that. He rose, tail swaying. Let them send her. Let her bleed. I will break her myself, if need be. The night before the trial, Mira stood on the orbital platform above the arena, staring down at the world she would fight on. She wore a lightweight exosuit, plated with reactive shielding, fused with Neuralink weapons. Her back bore a folded vibroblade the length of her leg, and her pulse rifle hovered at her shoulder like a loyal animal. A technician approached hesitantly. "Captain, do you need anything before dawn?" She didn't answer right away. Then, softly, "Tell my father I forgive him. Tell my mother I remember the orchard." The tech blinked. "Aye, of course. Anything else?" Mira turned, eyes glowing like distant suns. "Tell the galaxy to watch." One-woman army. The arena of 12 moons was a marvel of svnthetic engineering. A combat zone carved into the surface of a small, unstable moon whose gravity shifted by the hour. Terrain modules reshaped the battlefield on command. Rocky crags one moment, swamps the next. A test of strength, cunning, and adaptability. Thousands of alien spectators filled the atmospheric dome that hovered above it. Their voices, clicking, growling, vibrating, fused into a chaos of expectation. Then the horn sounded. On the eastern platform, metal groaned and hissed. The gate to the svnthetic warbeast's chamber cracked open. The monster stepped out, nearly 12 feet tall, plated in organic armor. Its triple-jointed arms ended in claws that could cleave through Starship Hull. This was Korgoz the Unbroken, a hybrid creation, part predator, part soldier, and all hatred. Its roar cracked the sky as it slammed its fists into the stone beneath it. The crowd erupted. Bets shifted. Cameras locked in. Then the opposite gate opened. A single figure emerged. Mira Reyes walked into the arena like she was going for a run. Her armor was sleek and understated. Gray plates over adaptive fiber. No oversized weapons. No dramatic flair. Just a pulse rifle locked at her back. A blade clipped at her hip and a face of stone. Silence spread like a virus. "Where's her support unit?" someone asked. "She's alone," whispered another. High above, General Vorkes leaned forward in his throne, incredulous. "Is this Earth's joke?" The Empress raised her hand. "Begin." Mira didn't wait. The instant the war horn blasted, she moved. Not toward the beast, but across the terrain, zigzagging between fractured rock spires and shifting ledges. Her neural HUD displayed gravity fluctuations, wind shifts, and incoming biosignatures. Korgoz gave chase, roaring again, its massive strides eating the distance. She let it think she was fleeing, let it get cocky, just like every commander who'd underestimated her before. At the last second, she skidded to a halt, spun on one heel, and fired her first shot. The pulse bolt hit the beast's shoulder, not to injure, but to blind its right side sensory organ for 2 seconds. It staggered, snarling. That's when Mira leapt, propelled by gravity, surge boots, flipping over its head. Her blade came out mid-flight and sliced clean through the beast's rear tendons. It screamed, collapsing onto one knee. The crowd gasped. She landed in a roll, ducking under a wild swing, and slid beneath its torso, stabbing into the vulnerable seam at its ribs. Black blood sprayed. Korgoz howled, twisting violently, but by the time it struck, Mira was gone, already sprinting up a rock face like a phantom. The battle raged for 17 minutes. Mira never tried to overpower Korgoz. She knew she couldn't. Instead, she bled him, made him angry, made him sloppy. She triggered terrain traps, used echo grenades to confuse his tracking, hacked arena nodes to tilt the environment to her advantage. But it wasn't easy. Twice she took hits, one to the ribs, cracking bone beneath her armor, another that threw her against a cliff face, denting her helmet. Her vision blurred, her pulse spiked. Still, she rose. "Get up," she muttered to herself, tasting blood. "You always get up." In the throne chamber, General Vorkes was no longer smug. He watched as the human woman, bleeding, limping, breathing hard, continued to fight. She showed no fear, no hesitation. She's not possible, he growled. This is not possible. Even Croc was silent. And then the final moment came. Corgos, enraged and half-blind, charged one last time. Mira stood her ground. She reached for her final ace, a micro-rift charge, a banned tech but not outlawed under trial combat rules. She jammed it into the ground and activated it just as the beast lunged. Space bent. Gravity twisted. The beast was pulled mid-lunge into the distortion, its momentum snapping bones as it twisted unnaturally. Mira leapt, flipped above it, and drove her blade into the base of its skull with both hands. With a thunderous crack, the war beast collapsed, shaking the entire arena. Silence fell. Dust settled. Mira Reyes, chest heaving, face bloodied, stood atop the beast's corpse. She reached down, grabbed its severed tusk, and began dragging it across the field. When she reached the central platform, she tossed it at the Imperial dais. It landed with a metallic clang at General Vorkas's feet. "I believe," she said, voice amplified for all to hear. "You said we were cowards." The crowd exploded, first in stunned silence, then in chaotic screams. Some booed, some roared in admiration, some simply stared in disbelief. And far above, the Empress leaned forward and whispered, "The human has won." Trial by fire. Mira Reyes collapsed to one knee as the adrenaline drained from her system, leaving only pain and blood in its place. The arena floor beneath her was cracked, soaked in alien ichor and scorched from energy blasts. Her blade was chipped, armor pitted and scorched. But she was alive, and the beast was not. Emergency drones hovered overhead, scanning her vitals. She waved them away. "Don't touch me," she rasped. The med operator in her earpiece protested. "Captain Reyes, your blood pressures." I said I'm fine. She stood, barely, and faced the galaxy. From the throne dais, Empress Shiraval made a sweeping motion with one clawed hand, silencing the crowd. Her eyes glowed with interest, perhaps even the faintest amusement. "The human has proven her strength," she declared, her voice resonating across every diplomatic channel in the system. "Earth's sovereignty remains intact." A stunned hush filled the arena. Some delegates nodded in reluctant respect. Others sneered or looked away. But General Vorkas did not speak. Not yet. He rose slowly, towering above the others, his body tense. "She cheated," he growled. "No one fights like that. No one survives that." His second-in-command spoke. "It was sanctioned. The charge she used was pre-approved by your own council." Vorkas's claws flexed. "I will not be humiliated by a lesser species," he snarled. He leapt from the dais. Gasps echoed. The general landed with a seismic boom in the center of the arena, just meters from Mira. The ground cracked beneath him. She didn't move. "You should have stayed in the dirt, human," he hissed. Mira blinked blood from her eyes. "I didn't crawl through a decade of war to be disrespected by a lizard in a costume." Vorkas roared and lunged. Technically, the trial was over, but no one dared to interfere. Not yet. Not when one of the Empire's most feared warriors was facing off against the woman who had just toppled a genetic titan. Mira didn't dodge Vorkas's first strike. She caught it, barely, with both arms crossed over her head, absorbing the brunt of the blow with her forearms and redirecting the force as she was thrown backward into a rock spire. She slid to the ground, coughing ribs of flame. Her vision wavered. Pain is data. Pain is truth. She had been through worse. She had been rebuilt from worse. With a grimace, she activated her wrist blades, shorter, serrated edges designed for close quarters. "You want a real fight?" she rasped. "Then let's stop talking." Vorkas descended upon her like a meteor, swinging with the strength of 3 men and the precision of a born killer. He was not some mindless brute like Corgos. He was a general, a veteran of over 100 battles. But Mira Reyes had not survived on strength alone. She danced between his strikes, countering with speed and fury. Her blades slashed at exposed joints. Her boot struck pressure points. Her HUD screamed warnings, but she ignored them all. One wrong move, and she was dead. But that was the point. That was always the point. Humans didn't win because they were stronger. They won because they didn't know when to quit. The battle lasted 5 brutal minutes. In that time, Mira broke 2 fingers, shattered her left forearm plate, and took a slash across her back that scorched the dermal mesh. But she landed her hits. She crippled one of Vorkas's knees. She stabbed through his lower abdomen with a plasma dagger. And finally, when he grabbed her by the throat and lifted her off the ground, she triggered the blade she had hidden under her wrist, extending it with a pulse spike. It jammed into his neck. His eyes widened in shock. Mira dropped to the ground, gasping for air as Vorkas stumbled back, gurgling. She grabbed her discarded rifle, aimed it point blank, and said, "This is for Earth." The shot knocked him flat. Vorkas lay twitching, his breathing ragged, eyes burning with hatred. Mira didn't kill him. She didn't have to. The silence in the arena was total. From her knees, she looked up at the crowd, diplomats, soldiers, aliens from every species in the Empire, and raised her hand. Not in a fist, not in a wave, but in a salute. "This," she said hoarsely, "is what your coward looks like." Later, in the med bay aboard the Earth delegation cruiser, Mira lay in a nutrient tank, dozens of micro-repair bots stitching her back together. Ambassador Anand stood outside the tank, watching her. He shook his head slowly, a mixture of awe and sorrow in his eyes. She shouldn't have survived. Beside him, the head of Earth's Joint Defense Command nodded. That's what everyone keeps saying. And yet, she keeps proving them wrong. She bought us more than sovereignty. Anand murmured. She bought us respect. Fear, even. Fear could be useful, the general replied. It gives us time to prepare for what comes next. Anand's eyes drifted to Myra's unconscious face, bruised and pale, but still breathing. Do you think the Empire will let this go? No, the general said. They'll never forget. But maybe they'll think twice before calling us cowards again. In the depths of Severin Prime, within a sealed Imperial war chamber, Empress Shiraval reviewed the footage of the duel again and again. She should not have won, one of her aides said. She was not expected to, the Empress murmured, which is precisely why she did. She folded her claws together. Begin re-evaluation of Terran military capabilities. Send operatives to observe their special forces programs. I want dossiers on all Earth-based veterans like this one, especially those marked classified. The aide hesitated. You believe there are more like her? The Empress smiled faintly. No, but humanity only needed one, and that should terrify us all. Echoes across the stars. It started as a whisper, across the outer colonies, among smugglers and mercenaries, in mining stations orbiting dying suns, and in the deep code of interstellar data streams. The story spread. The human woman who fought alone. The one who bled the war beast. The one who dropped the Zinthri general. Most didn't believe it. Then the footage leaked, raw, unedited, uncut. And suddenly, everyone believed. In a mercenary bar on the ice world of Gridhose 4, a group of warriors watched the final moment. The blade drive into Vorkas's neck, the point-blank rifle shot, the broken woman rising in victory. One of them, a Varnathi gladiator with 3 kills in the pit wars, leaned forward and muttered, "That's not a soldier. That's death wearing skin." No one disagreed. On Earth, Mira Reyes walked through a sea of reporters and lights. She had refused medals, declined interviews, skipped diplomatic banquets. Her only request had been simple. Give me silence and a way home. But silence never came. Her face was etched on the side of orbital carriers. Holosculptures of her battle stance were erected in cities from New Kyoto to the Martian capital. Children pointed and said, "That's her. That's the one who stood alone." And somewhere deep within Earth's Defense Directorate, a black project called Phantom Core was quietly reactivated. In the Galactic Council, the ripples of her battle didn't fade. They grew. Species once wary of humans now requested alliances. Small independent planets reached out to Earth for joint defense initiatives. Even longtime rivals, like the Andari and Karate, reopened trade talks. The Zinthri? They said nothing. General Vorkas, though alive, was placed on medical leave, his pride and reputation shattered. Rumors swirled of his attempted resignation and the political upheaval he left behind. Some called for revenge. Others said the Empire should learn from this. And in a move no one expected, Empress Shiraval extended a formal invitation to Captain Mira Reyes to speak before the High Council. "You don't have to go," Ambassador Anand told her as they stood in the shuttle hangar. Mira adjusted the straps of her simple gray uniform. No medals, no rank insignia, just the old Terran flag on one shoulder. They asked, "They fear you. They should." He smiled, then grew serious. "If you say the wrong thing up there, I won't." A pause. He glanced around, then leaned in slightly. "There's talk of elevating you to Earth's Global Security Council. They want you to lead our first Joint Command Unit." Mira didn't look surprised. "Tell them to wait." "For what?" She finally met his gaze. "For the next storm." The council chamber was full again, but this time no one laughed. As Mira walked to the central platform, even the most vocal critics of humanity leaned back in wary silence. The recording of her battle had been played 100 times, analyzed, debated, feared, and now the woman herself stood before them. "I was told I had 5 minutes," she said, voice calm. The Empress inclined her head. "Take what you need." Myra's gaze swept the hall. "You called us cowards," she said, "because we didn't rush into your wars. Because we value lives more than conquests. Because we speak first instead of shoot." She paused. "You mistook restraint for weakness, diplomacy for fear, peace for surrender." Several delegates shifted uncomfortably. "We don't have genetic super soldiers. We don't dominate sectors. We don't need to. When we fight, we do so to protect, not to conquer." She stepped forward. "You wanted proof we deserve to be here? I gave it. Not because I wanted to. Not because I hate your empire. But because someone had to stand. Someone had to remind you what humanity really is." Mira held up a small object. A child's toy. A carved wooden star. "I carry this with me. My niece made it before I left. She told me, bring this back so you don't forget who you are." She looked directly at the Empress. "I didn't forget, and I don't want you to forget." She turned to the chamber. "One woman stood alone in your arena, but behind her stood 10 billion hearts. And if ever again you threaten Earth, you won't face just one of us." She dropped the star into her palm. "You'll face all of us." There was no applause, but the silence was louder than any cheer. Weeks later, in a small orchard on a hillside in southern Chile, Mira stood beneath the trees her mother had planted. Wind rustled the leaves. Sunlight painted gold across the earth. A figure approached behind her. Not a soldier, not a diplomat. Her father. He looked older than she remembered, weathered by years of silence and regret. "I saw your speech," he said quietly. She didn't turn. "I didn't do it for you." "I know." He walked to her side. "I should have never pushed you into the military." "You didn't," she said. "You just didn't stop me." Silence stretched between them. Then he reached out and placed something into her hand. A folded picture, her as a child, covered in paint, beaming with wild joy. She looked at it, then at him. He said nothing more. And this time, she didn't push him away. Above Earth, in a black sight cloaked from all sensors, a room full of generals, tacticians, and AI advisors reviewed a new initiative. Project Sentinel Vanguard. At its core, Mira Reyes. Codename Echo 1, because the galaxy had heard her voice, and the echoes were just beginning.